What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it's time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. It's a pretty big week this week. We've got, we're really leaning into spooky season this week, so we got, it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun time. If you want to learn how to do this kind of thing, then I got a course coming out this week. It's coming up. I'm very excited. Astrology from the ground up is going to be super dope, and I wish you would be a part of it. It would. If you got a pricing issue or something like that, somebody DM'd me the other day to talk about a payment plan, and I am super down to do that kind of thing. Like, I want to see students in this class, especially if you are interested and you've been hanging out here doing the forecast and all this for a little while. I always appreciate all y'all, and I want you to be a part of it if you can be a part of it. If you've got the time, if you've got the interest, then I would love to see you doing things. So check out zamboniform.com, DM me about a payment plan if you need to do that. There is a whole bunch of cool shit at zamboniform.com that you should check out, including some music and other stuff. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. This week we've got I mentioned before we was leaning into spooky season. So, like, here's what I mean by that. So in the first place, we've got Mercury has moved into Scorpio, right? And so Mercury in Scorpio is going to be sort of penetrating, deep diving in some kind of way, the way that a scorpion's needle is going to go underneath the skin, right? Like, it's going to go deep down and sort of like pay attention to what is going on underneath the surface. And so Mercury is going to be the one who is communicating, right? So, like, Mercury is going to want to talk about the things that are going on underneath the surface, and it's going to shoot straight, going to go right to the heart of the issue. Sometimes that can be a little bit of an affront, but that is often useful if what you want is some kind of honesty to get really into what's actually going on here. This Mercury in Scorpio is going to be making a trine to Saturn in Pisces this week. So Saturn is the planet of boundaries, and Saturn in Pisces is going to be sort of like deep in the muck or in the deep ocean in some kind of way. Like the deep ocean is where the sea monsters live at, right? So, like, it's so dark and crazy down there that anything is kind of possible, right? And so Saturn is very much the planet that has to do with what is actually possible, what is really tangibly possible. Saturn is the planet of boundaries and of discipline and all this kind of thing, like the skeleton, the bones of the thing, the infrastructure and all that sort of stuff. And so in Pisces, Pisces is in the deep ocean. Like, do you even need a vertebra down there? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird in this space. And so there's something here about that deep, dark orientation that we can speak directly to with that trine to Mercury in Scorpio. We can remember that a trine is a helpful and beneficial aspect. So Mercury is like able to say something that speaks to the darkness, speaks about the darkness, that really makes a lot of sense in some sort of way, or that can be helpful for doing the Mercury thing, especially if you're trying to, like, if you're looking at that kind of brutal honesty or something like that. You can notice that it is dark and maybe kind of bleak in that zone, but you might be able to get some good insight from that, right? This is part of the reason why I do fortune telling in the first place, because, like, I like to be able to look into the eye of that black hole and be like, okay, it's kind of scary, but now I know things that I didn't used to know. And having that kind of insight, I find, is very useful, not only for me, but also for the people around me and this kind of thing. So that's why I'm interested in that kind of thing. And I think that there's a lot of good insight here available this week, especially since we can also notice that the sun is going to move into Scorpio as well. Now, I like the sun in Scorpio. I think that the sun is good in that sign. The Scorpio is a fixed sign, and the sun tends to like the fixed signs pretty well. The sun is very constant and fixed in the way that it does things. The sun, for example, never has a retrograde cycle the way that all the other planets except the moon does. It does the same thing all the time. It moves at about a degree a day. It's like very rhythmic. It's very steady. And so to have that kind of steadiness in a fixed sign like Scorpio tends to do pretty well. Now, maybe I'm biased because I have the sun in Scorpio, but I think that the sun does pretty well in this sign. And so so the sun in Scorpio, I think does pretty well, but is ruled by Mars. And we've got that Mars in Cancer. Mars in Cancer is opposite to Pluto in Capricorn. Not yet, just creeping up toward that opposition to Pluto in Capricorn. So, but that Mars is getting more and more uncomfortable all the time. And so some of the sun stuff is going to be feeling that kind of like pressure on the Mars, aggression, or feeling sensitive about something and maybe feeling like you need to freak out about it, especially if you get some kind of distorted understanding of what's going on. I always think about Pluto as being the funhouse mirror. You like look into the mirror and you get a distorted image back and it freaks you out and can cause like dysmorphia, or maybe you see something in that image that isn't actually there. We might think about like the room of requirement, the mirror of the Elized, which was put into the room of requirement. So this is like deep Harry Potter lore. Shit doesn't really matter, but there's this idea of like you look into the mirror and you see what you want to see, and it kind of captivates you, and you never leave what you see in the mirror, right? That kind of thing is also possible here with Pluto in Capricorn. So, and Pluto generally, but Mars is going to be making this opposition pretty soon. We're within 3 degrees at this point, so it's on. But then also we see that before the sun moves into Scorpio, then the sun at the very end of Libra is also going to make this square to Pluto in Capricorn. Now the sun in Libra has been so wildly uncomfortable this whole time. Like the sun in Libra always has a little bit of a difficult time because it's like in fall and this kind of thing, but we had an eclipse there, which is directly antithetical to what the sun wants to do. The sun wants to shine, and in a solar eclipse, then you get shadows instead of shining. So like that is difficult. In Libra is difficult. Venus has been pretty uncomfortable for a lot of that as well. Now we're looking at Venus is ruling Libra, right? And then also square to Mars in Cancer, like wildly uncomfortable. And now Sun in Libra square to Pluto in Capricorn. This is again kind of scary and weird, leaning into spooky season here, right? So especially if we're looking at this Mercury trine Saturn, and we're looking at the sun, which has to do with shining, vision, light, all that sort of stuff, right? Looking at the thing is what the sun typically wants to do, right? Or looking at seeing and being seen. These are sun significations. And so looking into the mirror, into the funhouse mirror, into the mirror of the Elized, and being like, okay, what are we seeing here? What kinds of feelings come out? One thing about this strange mirror is that it can show you things that you didn't know that you were feeling. Again, this is why I love fortune telling, because it's a good way to look into your heart, to be like, okay, like how do I actually feel about this thing? And then like if you've been sort of lying to yourself, you want to be nice, or you want to you don't want to think the thing that you think, or you don't want to feel the thing that you feel, or something like this, then the fortune telling devices such as astrology, which you can learn in the course Astrology from the Ground Up, or tarot card readings, or sometimes I flip a coin, or I've got dice that I roll, and this kind of thing. Like all of that sort of stuff will show you an image of what is actually going on for you, and then you have to like reckon with that. So there's that kind of brutal honesty that's associated with Mercury in Scorpio, and trine to Saturn in Pisces. So there's this darkness there, right? And then looking with the sun in late Libra square to Pluto in Capricorn, and then Sun in Scorpio ruled by Mars, who is opposite to Pluto in Capricorn. So all the Sun Pluto things, right, and Mars Pluto things, looking at that thing and seeing it being kind of ugly, being kind of dark, being kind of bleak, and then sort of, and maybe that's not even a real thing, right? Like it's, the image is distorted, and so it's difficult to know what's really real and what's not real. But when you get this image back, then it makes you feel a thing. And then by feeling that thing, then you get some insight into yourself, into your own way of being in the world. And then that can help us to navigate once we make it into whatever actually is real out in the world, given that kind of insight. thanks so much for being here. Check out zambonifong.com. Appreciate it.